It's 5 o'clock in Pirate Country, and it's time to get pumped up with the P-Man. Hit the door and hit the road. 94.3 The Game is going to get you home, and the P-Man's not holding back.
Yes! Yes! Pirates win! Pirates win!
Bring on the Patrick Johnson Show on 94.3 The Game.
Holy mackerel! Oh, my goodness!
The flagship station of the ECU Pirates.
The final day of Big Rock Radio, I did find my Big Rock hat. I didn't know where it was for the longest time. I thought I'd lost. I got the Big Rock hat, and then I had my evening of fun, and I couldn't find the hat after that, Pilk. And you know what I thought? I thought, okay, that's a casualty of this war. That's a casualty of this war. That's what I thought.
Expensive casualty, and a nice one, too. I like that hat.
It's a good-looking hat. Look at Philip the Ref Pilkington, or Phil, as my dad, the coach, calls him. Look at Philip the Ref Pilkington, Phil the Ref, as he calls you, with the Celtics shirt on because he's feeling good about his C's, who he wouldn't care less about if it were, October or March. But now that we're in June, and they're on the cusp of winning a world championship, number 18 in Boston, correct?
Yeah.
You are now a proud member of Celtics Nation.
I'm always a proud member. It's just if it comes down to hockey or basketball and they're on at the same time, I'm definitely watching the Bruins over the Celtics.
You're talking about the Bruins rather than the Celtics. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, that's fair. I don't hate on you. What a week at the Big Rock. We were on the Acquisition today, Pilkington. Now, you were on this boat last year. 142 feet. I got a tour of the captain's area. What it's called in the nautical world, I'm not sure.
The bridge.
The bridge. It was on the bridge. Mighty damn impressive stuff. Gorgeous. Travis and Cassie Burt. Beautiful. Beautiful vessel. And a good week overall. As my friend joked, my first and last Big Rock week. I don't know how far. It's a little bit of column A and a little bit of column B on that one, Pilk. I don't know if I can do a week again. A week's a lot of time because we kind of get yo-yoed on this, the big productions in the morning, and I understand that. But then we're left to our own devices in the afternoon, which I would rather have. I'd rather we just be left to our own devices, although it would be nice to boss around Buscemi and actually have him do some work. Kidding. No need to send me the memo. I'm just joking.
So what I'm hearing is next year you and I will go down. And
just do our own thing.
Yeah, and we do our own thing, and we make Dom sit back at Mission Control at 5 o'clock.
Yeah, or whoever is, in that role at that point.
Yeah.
And then you and I just go do our own thing. Now, I want to think, some things, I paid for this Big Rock hat. I paid for it. Believe it or not, I paid for this shirt. Totally unrelated to the Big Rock. Tommy gave me, of course, I think these were everywhere to be found, but I got one of these. Tommy gave me one, and I have not cracked it yet. So I'm going to take a look at I guess it's kind of a companion magazine to the event that is going on. Hillary gave me this beautiful Lookout Ford tumbler, and it's got the change in it, Pilk, that you could take the lid off here, which is a screw lid, and screw this in, and then you could stick a can in there, like a skinny can.
Do you drink White Claws? Is that why you care about the skinny can,
There ain't
Patrick?
no law. There ain't no law. Well, no, I figured this would be a nice thing to maybe give, someone who drinks White Claws, like Jay Sunolder.
Hey.
That's what I thought. And but I would use it for coffee purposes, Pilk, or to keep another beverage chilled.
There you go. That is a nice cup. I got a hat from her. Your cup is nicer than my hat, I will say.
It's really, and I'll say this about this this thing. This is kind of engraved in a little bit, or it's raised a little. I don't know. It's a very nice logo from Hillary Gutschall, who we had on earlier in the week. Today, on the program, we have an ECU alum, Brian Moffitt, who is Richard Petty's son-in-law and is one of the poobahs at Petty's Garage. So he'll explain to us what that is. Richard Petty, who was at the Big Rock last year and really wanted to be there this year, is not at the Big Rock, Bill. because he's in Iowa at the race there this weekend, signing at an autograph signing. And this is for, a sponsor thing, which we get. And I was talking to Brian a little bit. Brian's a hell of a guy, just a great guy. Awesome dude. Was he there last year when you were there, Pilk?
Yeah, he was. He was great. I actually got to sit and talk to him for a while on Thursday afternoon.
I mean, you could sit there and talk to him for hours.
Yeah.
And he's just a nice guy. So we'll talk to him a little bit, and then Bethany Bradsher will be on the show. Bethany, of course, wrote the book, The Big Rock. Also has a book, Never Take This for Granted, which is on ECU baseball fans. So we'll talk to Bethany about all of that coming up as well. The Big Rock will continue. The U.S. Open is going on in Pinehurst, so it is, again, a huge sports weekend in North Carolina. A lot of reaction to our interview with the AAC commissioner from yesterday. Pilk, upon further review, I think that, again, I think the kind of review of where the American is and not adding just for the sake of adding, and, maybe developing some more outlets in the multimedia rights space stood out to me. I know you said the comment about basketball expansion, not expanding for the sake of expansion, stood out to you. I think a lot of what we didn't ask is maybe getting, and this is on me, I did not ask about this hackneyed idea of the G5, if you want to call them that, which the American would be included in, having their own playoff. But, the more we flesh that out, I don't know if that's where, just reading into Pernetti's comments yesterday, reading between the lines, I don't think he considers the American to get anything that is beneficial out of that event, that separate playoff. Would you, I don't want to put words in his mouth, but that would just seem to me how I read it. Would you have read it similarly?
Yeah, 100%. He firmly has a vision that a team from this conference.
I don't know if we got that vision other than just the elevator pitch yesterday. But go ahead.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
I think he firmly has a vision that a team from this conference can be the best group of 5, can go to the college football playoff, and can compete there. Maybe not right away, but I can guarantee you, and again, we don't want to put words in his mouth, but these projections that are coming out that Boise State will be the group of 5 team to go to the college football playoff this year, I guarantee you that irks him. You could tell by his comments that he is firmly willing to compete at the highest level. I do not think he wants to settle for second best.
No, and I think if we're being honest, Boise, I think the Mountain West and the American are the 2 combatants there. I mean, the American, there's some issues that have to be dealt with in football. And a lot of it is these new members making sure that their schedule cuts the mustard. The non-conference, I mean, of course. And the other part of this is, to me at least, I think that Liberty, and that it's really maybe JMU, but Liberty and JMU and Boise, those conferences are not your competition if you're the American, but those 3 institutions are your competition if you're a representative or a team out of the American that has those aspirations.
Yeah, I agree. There may be a couple other teams in the Mountain West that can sneak into that. San Diego State's been ranked in the past, but I think overall Boise would still be the front runner,
right, so
not necessarily to win the conference, but yeah.
I'll give you San Diego State. Then it's 4.
Yeah. But you're right. It's only them, and then it's the winner of the American, and it doesn't matter who wins the American. I think that the point you're trying to make here is that if one of those teams don't win their conference, the likelihood of them getting in is slim. The winner of the American will be a contender for that spot. Yeah, or should get in. Yeah.
And historically it has been. What I'm saying is these new members need to be playing schedules that were similar to what Houston and UCF were playing in the non-conference. Again, easier said than done. East Carolina after this year will have some of those so-called P4 opportunities on its schedule.
Yeah. The only team that seems out of these new members to play that schedule right now is UTSA. They play Houston usually.
And I guarantee you that they were gotten on there early before they got good.
Yeah, they probably did.
When they were in the infancy of their program because the deals are done so far out now.
Good point, yeah. So who knows if they'll be able to keep that going. I don't have their long futures in front of me. It'd be something good to pull up, though. So hopefully they can keep it going, and hopefully some of these other teams get behind it. But right now, I mean, who wants to play FAU? Who wants to play Rice? Who wants to play Charlotte in their JV stadium?
FAU's got a chance. Charlotte on the road would have a chance. While we're talking, Pilk, why don't you look that up on the long term for UTSA? Because I do think that is interesting. I think that's a very good point that you may be digging into there. Let's take a look at their long term.
Yeah. So next year, this year coming up, they've got Kennesaw State, Texas State at Texas. And then I don't even know who HCU is. Is that Holy Cross?
Ooh, no,
Probably.
It wouldn't be Holy Cross. Maybe. I don't know.
Maybe because Kennesaw State's FBS now, so it could be Holy Cross. They are one of the better FCS programs, especially to come out of
HCU.
Especially
Houston Christian.
Oh man!
Sure
Yep, that's good. Yep, who's not
Houston
nearly
Christian.
as good as Holy Cross. So on their futures, so in 20, and I won't go through every game here, but in 25 they do play A&M. In 26 they play the Longhorns. 27 they've got LSU and UNLV, who I know is a G5, but they're a better G5.
Right. Yeah.
And then looking down, they don't even play Texas again until 2030. Yeah, there's a lot of Texas State Air Force type teams in here mixed in. So,
but if you make a name for yourself now, now can you look up the ECU? Because again, after this year, it becomes a better schedule than, or at least I should say better. You get the opportunity to take down a P4.
You do
if you're the Pirates. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's kind of what the formula dictates. I mean, that's not a lot has changed for teams out of the American when it comes to the success of getting into the championship. You got to win every game near bout, and you better have knocked off an alleged big boy.
Yeah. So in 25, the Pirates have the Wolfies.
I think that's one that opens eyes if you get it.
Yep. And then BYU. There's a Big 12 school. They do have a group of 5 school in the Beach Chickens, as Joey Football calls them, but they're a good group of 5 school in Coastal Carolina. And then, so in 26, West Virginia is on the schedule. In 27, Wake is on the schedule. 28, you have NC State and Wake on the schedule.
Yep.
In 30, South Carolina is on the schedule.
There you go. So you've got your opportunities for the rest of the decade beyond this year. Although I think, if you were to emerge victorious over Liberty and Appalachian State, and then you got to win other games, it becomes a little bit of an eye-opener, undoubtedly so. It is our Big Rock Week spectacular, Big Rock Radio, as we wrap things up. Pilk, did you make it to the concert on the Common last night? The report I got was it was the largest crowd that we've had this year, maybe the largest crowd ever. That was the report as of earlier today. So to see the Journey tribute band Trial by Fire.
Yeah, I did make it out. It was definitely one of the largest crowds, if not the largest. I mean, Hank was the one guesstimating, so how much ever stock you want to put in. No, I'm kidding.
Wow.
No. I haven't been to, I will say I've not been to every single concert of the Commons such as Hank has, so he would make a better guesstimate than I would, and I think Brad Durrett has been to all but maybe one in his time here. So, it was very good, and what helped, obviously, they do a great job. They were here 2 years ago. Those guys are phenomenal.
Huge crowd 2 years ago,
Yeah, huge crowd 2 years ago, despite it being like 115 degrees 2 years ago. And that was the other thing last night, and the weather was spectacular. Dylan and I were talking about that. We've just had back-to-back concerts now with good weather. It usually goes like cold as ice for the first 2, and then you're just like sweating your backside off the next 4. And we've been very fortunate. Weather was good. I think the beer sales were good. I haven't seen the numbers, but the beer lines seemed to look long, and people stayed till the end, man. And the band was interactive. It was wonderful. I had a great time there hanging out.
Did they close with "Don't Stop Believing"?
No, they did not. I was helping tear down, and I don't even know what they closed with, but it was not don't because I thought they were going to close with that, and then they did an encore.
That's what you seem like you would close with. Is
Yeah.
Don't Stop Believing.
That's what I thought.
All right. A good producer would have a little Don't Stop Believing going to break.
All righty.
Just saying. It is the Get You to the Weekend Big Rock Radio edition of the Patrick Johnson Show. We are going to have Bethany Bradsher coming up in our next segment. Talk to her about her Big Rock book of a couple of years ago, and talk with Bethany about, of course, her ECU baseball book, Never Take This for Granted, which is about ECU baseball fans and the program as a whole and all of those elements surrounding the program. All right, Patrick Johnson Show on this Friday. TGIF, we made it. Let's take a break, and the great Bethany Bradsher will join us on the other side. Patrick Johnson Show. It has been a tremendous week at the Big Rock, and it would not be a Big Rock week without Bethany Bradsher being in Morehead City.
Absolutely.
How you doing?
I'm doing great.
The great
Thank
Bethany
you.
Bradsher, our old friend. We've known Bethany for many a moon.
Many a moon.
And you just get younger and younger, Bethany.
It's amazing,
Isn't it?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
One of my favorite people is Bethany. And you have your youngest just finished his freshman year in college?
Yes, that's correct. He's here with me today.
That's hard to believe.
I know.
Hard to
You met
believe.
him when he was a newborn baby.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And you were slugging it out there.
I don't know how else to do it.
Yeah. Boy, it's an exciting week down here. My first week down here for the whole week.
Mhm.
I don't know if I'm still gonna be recovered next week, but it's been a good time. We've had a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Well, if you've written books about it, we're gonna hold the books up for the video audience. But when you start to where did the concept? Let's hold the Big Rock book up.
Yeah.
This is kind of the quintessential history of the Big Rock coming out of up until the end of last decade.
Mhm.
So
That's
from
right.
2020 on,
There's been some new history.
there's been some new history.
Yeah.
And you'll write a new book, I'm sure, one day,
Sure,
or an addendum
absolutely,
to it, or that sort of thing.
absolutely.
But that is a pretty comprehensive history, the Big Rock book is.
Yeah, and what I like about this book too is I embedded myself down here in 2018. I also have an epilogue, which is the record-breaking catch in 2019 on Top Dog. But what I tried to do
That was
is
the 900 plus pounds.
914. That's
Yeah.
right. What I tried to do is by being down here and walking people through day by day by day, the decisions captains are making, the leaderboard shakeups, the drama, and just to show you what a typical week is like. And that was what we did in 2018. So I think it not only gives the history and some of the big events that people know about in depth, it also kind of gives you this sort of boots on the ground feel of what it's like to be down
It's not
here.
a frozen in amber history type of thing. I mean, it's a year in the life.
Kind of a year in the life, along with then we would dig deep and go back to the first Big Rock, or there was an angler who was killed in 1994. We tell
Right.
that story. Big lawsuit in 2010. We tell that story. So anything that you've heard about in regards to the Big Rock that was a big story, it's in there prior to 2020.
Where can folks get the Big Rock? By BethanyBradsher.com.
Yeah, BethanyBradsher.com can link you to anything.
Right.
My books are on Amazon, also brick and mortar. We have books at Jarrett Bay in Beaufort, DG's and the Big Rock store in Morehead City, Kaufman's in Greenville, and Gentleman's Corner in Wilmington.
All right, what are you telling me? Hold this down? Oh, tilt down. Okay, there you go. So for the video audience, there's that, the Big Rock
There it is,
book.
there it
All
is.
right. Is there a particular, I mean, you touched on so much there. Is there a particular story that stood out to you as the author of that book?
Well, I think when you talk about that 2018 year, there were a lot of different things happening. The Carter Rican, which is a Morehead City-based boat, ended up winning the Fabulous Fisherman's that year at the very last minute on Saturday.
Because the original catch had not entered that.
Did not enter that category. That's
Right.
correct. So Honey Hush won the tournament. They didn't enter. And so whereas this year, the Fabulous Fisherman's was won almost as early as it could have been.
Yeah.
I can't imagine a weigh-in any earlier, by the time they
And
catch it
Monday,
and bring
yeah,
it in. Right. Monday at before 3 o'clock,
Right, yeah.
we had that claimed. That year, it hadn't been claimed. And so the very last minute, Saturday afternoon, this Carter Rican, and that was just a fun story just to hear the decisions. Again, I love to hear kind of the chess, the way the captains have to think about where to be and what days to fish and what
Right.
days to lay. So that was one of my favorites. Just the captains really let me in throughout the year after that tournament of all the things that were going on behind the scenes.
And that book was followed up by
this book. So
Right.
it turns out that I'm an expert in boat building and sport fishing. It happens quickly, even though I'm not really a fisherman myself. But I had the opportunity to write this Big Fish, Better Boats, which is the history of sport fishing and boat building on the Outer Banks. So even this is pertinent to the Big Rock because a lot of the boats that fish in the Big Rock
Right.
fish out of Hatteras. They have a much quicker trip
Right, yeah.
out, and a lot of them are based there anyway. So Oregon Inlet, Pirates Cove, Hatteras, those are fishing hotbeds. And I've teamed up with Charles Perry, who's a legendary wireman who has fished all over the world. And when I tell you he has stories of his own, he'll probably end up with his own book. But he really felt like this needed to be written along with Finn Gaddy, and they came to me and said, let's do this book. So I got to interview some legends out there. I was
Yeah.
on the Outer Banks quite a bit doing this research. So it's very fun that I feel like these are companions.
I have a feeling Sid went with you on these trips.
He didn't get to ever go fishing. That was the part he didn't like. But it was so fascinating. Yeah, I feel like between the two books, we kind of get the history of, the Big Rock and sport
Right.
fishing on the Crystal Coast, and then you get the Outer Banks. So they kind of go together.
We've got Bethany Bradsher with us here at BethanyBradsher.com. Acclaimed author's written a little bit about everything over the years.
It's true.
And that includes some books here. Do you think the year that you go up to, or it comes out again, the 2018 season, you were embedded, so it comes out in 2019. Do you feel like that 2020 was the year that maybe changed the tournament and launched it to a different strata, perhaps?
Yeah, I did feel that way. And that's interesting because it was 2020 and we know what was going on then. But it did feel like, Michael Jordan, that was the first year that he fished down here, and that got tons and tons of
I
publicity.
think, too, that may have had, because a lot of people were at home.
They were at home and they needed something to talk about. And that's why, I was on these sports talk shows all over the Southeast, all over the East Coast,
Right.
talking about fishing because
Right.
there wasn't a whole lot else happening. And this is what MJ was doing. And so, I do think it made a difference. I'd like to give my book credit for doing that because it launched
Absolutely.
in 2020
Right.
and then the tournament took off. So, but it, where 200 was a big fleet back then, now we have a fleet of 300.
Yeah.
It's tremendous growth. It's really been incredible to watch.
When Bethany's with us here, I want to talk about the latest book, which we've talked about before. Never Take This for Granted. This is the book that started out kind of covering the season
Last year. That was
for
the original
Pirates.
plan,
Right.
Plan A.
Because the feeling was, okay, this
Maybe
could
this
go
will
to
be the
Omaha.
year. Right.
And you wanted to be
Again, kind of embedded.
Embedded.
Yeah.
So what ended up happening out of that was kind of a not really a discovery because you knew so much about it and you're
Right.
actually part of it, but sort of the story started to emerge of ECU baseball fans,
The fan
people
base.
around the
Yeah.
stadium
Yeah.
that are part
Yeah.
of the game in, game out
Yeah.
activity.
Kind of pivoted a bit.
Yeah.
And I started out in the press box and didn't want to stay in the press box, even though I had a credential that year. So I said, no, I'm going to stay in my seat in the jungle and collect these stories. What has struck me about this book, because I talked to you before it came out, I've done quite a few book signings in the stadium and around town in Greenville. And people have come up to me multiple times and said how many tears they cried. This isn't a sad book, but I think it resonates with people in a way that maybe nothing else I've written ever has.
Yeah.
And that's, I understand it because I'm a fan myself, but I think just the meaningfulness of this fan base and of the experience and the community, it's been amazing the way people have reacted.
What do you? It's almost like you could have again a companion book with that, or a second part of that. I mean, there's that many stories.
Oh, sure.
Is there a story that you particularly, like from that book?
There's so many, but I was, one of the things that I'm so grateful for, I was talking to Turner Brown, who, started for the Pirates several years ago, and he was talking about when his parents' house burned down. He's from Whiteville.
Right.
And the way the Pirate Nation rallied, raised money for him, supported him just in every way, and how amazing that was. And he said something about Phil, how Phil was there for him. Phil came and sat with him when he heard this news. And then Zach Agnos, when Zach and Jake Agnos lost their father to COVID, he also said, oh, and Phil was there to give me a hug. And I finally said, who is Phil? Well, Phil is the custodian in the ECU baseball offices. and is just an integral part of the leadership of that baseball team. He's kind of like the big brother to all the players, but he's always aware of the hardships they might be going through. If one of them seems like they're kind of off, he'll pull them aside, kind of like a counselor. And so the fact that I got to go over there and interview him and get his story and include him in the book meant so much, because that's the kind of thing you wouldn't necessarily know.
Right.
That in a way he's kind of like part of the coaching staff, and it was. And then I've gotten to see Phil every time I've been at a home game since, because he's always running around working, and I just have been so thrilled to put a spotlight on him.
What are you working on now?
Doing a lot of ghostwriting right now.
Yeah.
So some of it is a little bit Eastern North Carolina based, but I can't necessarily say quite yet. I have a book about women in corporate America coming out in August that I ghostwrote with my oldest childhood friend. So that's kind of a fun departure. Has nothing to do with sports.
Right.
I've learned a lot because I've always pretty much just worked at my kitchen table with my dog as a coworker. So I haven't had a lot of
here where we are right
workplace experiences of my own, but I ghostwrote it for my friend who has 35 years of corporate experience, and pretty cool.
What when you decide you're going to write about something, because it's like anything, I have to imagine there's ideas, and maybe an idea, sits on the back burner for years before it can be fleshed out. Does that I mean,
it does. Quick example, and I'm going to say this because maybe someone can help me. I heard a podcast about JFK. It's a Rob Reiner made a podcast called Who Killed JFK. And he just kind of offhandedly mentioned that at Nag's Head in the late 1950s, there was a CIA training program for young troubled guys, and Lee Harvey Oswald was part of it. And they were trying to create like false defectors during the Cold War, so that these guys would go and defect, but not really. And then they would become essentially spies. Right. And I thought, what in the world? Is this really true? So now I'm digging, like, was this program really happening at Nag's Head? So I've got a few Outer Banks people on it. Like, can you find out if this is real? Was this just an offhanded comment in a podcast that, I think it was like declassified CIA documents. So talk about a departure, but that kind of thing comes up in my brain and I can't quite let it go. So I'm chasing that down a little bit now. So anybody remember the CIA in Nag's Head in the late 50s? With
the U.S. Open in North Carolina and then rotating back through at Pinehurst, any thoughts of anything there?
I don't know. I mean, I just think that there's a lot of great moments that have happened at Pinehurst over the years, and I'm always grateful when it comes back, and especially the way it coincides with the Big Rock. Like we were saying earlier, there's just so much happening in not a huge swath of our state at the very same time, and it really just hits me. It's going to be exciting. It's going to be hot. It's going to be a hot one out there, but I'm looking forward to seeing what happens this weekend.
Never take this for granted. It is the ECU book on Pirate baseball and ECU baseball fans. You can pick that up at BethanyBradsher.com. Big Fish, Better Boats. It's sort of the companion piece to
the Big Rock.
2019-2020 is the Big Rock, which is still very much applicable.
That's right.
And is very much a book that still is history, and I think gives some great insight.
We have your beach books. We have your Father's Day gifts. So
there you go.
There you go.
And it's always great to see you, my friend.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you for coming on, and we'll get you on again before the start of football season.
Sounds great.
All right.
Thanks.
Bethany Bradsher with us, the Patrick Johnson Show on Big Rock Radio on 94.3 The Game all week, and we'll be back right after these words. All right, we're continuing on Big Rock Radio on the Patrick Johnson Show this week as we have continued. The acquisition is where we are today. Brian Moffitt, great ECU Pirate, and part of Petty's Garage, which Richard Petty is involved in, and you're married to Richard's daughter.
Richard's youngest daughter.
Yeah.
She would say the favorite.
Well, yeah, the youngest daughter is always the favorite.
Yes.
Great to see you. And Petty's Garage is what you're principally involved in now.
Yes.
So you all build cars and even race cars too, right?
We do.
Yeah.
We do both. We do street cars, so aftermarket. We build our own parts, Petty'sGarage.com, and we also still continue to build race cars. So,
how did you get started in all this? Because when you sort of entered the family, Richard Petty was wrapping up his illustrious career.
Yes.
And you were kind of in a different vocation altogether.
Yeah.
So what led you to get involved in the family business, so to speak?
So actually we went to East Carolina, my wife and I. We actually got married before we graduated. And at the time I was working for UPS. Mm-hmm. And we had the big decision once she graduated as to what are we going to do. we actually moved back home. It was right at the peak of NASCAR's growth,
Yeah.
1996.
Mhm.
And I started working, believe it or not, selling T-shirts and hats for Mr.
So you're
Petty.
doing the merch.
Yes, I was doing the merch. Yeah, we actually had a show car program at that point, too.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah. So
And then you were the actual Petty's Enterprises. What did that encompass, or what does it encompass?
So we had at the time we had Bobby Hamilton was our driver,
Right.
and Kyle had just finished with Sapco, and he had come back home, so
Right.
he had started his team.
Yeah.
So we had the 44 and 43 car,
Yeah.
and then of course we had Adam coming along in the what at that time was Busch Grand National, or excuse me. It was Busch.
It was Busch then. It's
It's
Xfinity now.
Xfinity now,
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's still
So-
Busch, still Busch and Winston.
It is.
Every us here, right?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
Did you grow up a fan?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. Grew up same hometown, Randleman, North Carolina.
Oh,
so
really?
yes, same hometown.
Well,
Yeah.
did you
So
know her before?
We did actually.
Okay.
Yes.
All right.
Yeah.
So what
Family
was the
friends.
connection in college then? Just
Well, we started dating.
yeah.
So I followed her. Actually, I graduated from Pitt Community.
Yeah. Okay.
And then went on to East Carolina.
Wow.
Yeah. So
Small world, isn't it?
yes, it is. Yeah.
When you your son
Thad Moffitt.
Thad Moffitt
Yeah.
just had quite an adventure at the Carteret Speedway. His second time there.
Second time there.
I'll let you tell the story.
Yeah, he actually sat on the pole. He was
Yeah.
1/10 from the track record and led every lap in the race. Actually won the race, and at the end of the race, they said something was wrong with our tires. I'm not sure what, but
Yeah.
he did a really
Other than
nice
that, a good
job.
experience.
Great experience.
Yeah.
Track promoters were fantastic. We would definitely come back to Carteret
That's awesome.
Speedway. Yeah.
With Thad, that's fourth generation of the Petty legacy.
Yes, sir. Yeah.
Did you kind of let him decide, or
We
how did
did.
that come about?
We did. So we have 3 kids. We have a daughter who was not interested in racing, but interested in sports, and then 2 boys, Thad and Harrison.
Mhm.
And both the boys were mainly into stick and ball sports until about 8 or 9 years old. You know, they grew up at the racetrack.
Right.
I worked in it, so they were always at the track. But they started dirt go-kart racing, and then graduated into doing late model. And Thad, the Bug Big Thad, Harrison, my youngest, decided he was more going the route of football. So,
Okay.
so
yeah.
he stuck with football.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Competitors, though. That's the thing. right?
absolutely.
Yeah.
Still to this day.
Yeah. Yeah. With
Now even on the golf course.
Is that right? So you've been here, Brian, to the Big Rock how many times here? With
This is our 3rd year.
okay,
Yeah.
straight consecutive. Yeah.
Consecutive. Absolutely mind blowing to me. All these
it's an
boats.
amazing event, isn't it?
It is absolutely amazing, and our families really got into it. We watch it even when we're not here.
Right. Yeah.
Kids are paying attention to
Yeah.
it, so
Well,
it's a lot of fun.
you get this because of you're in the industry. I cover a lot of things. I'm always interested in the logistics and the setup and all, because people don't understand. I mean, what they've got at Big Rock Landing looks like NASCAR would have for their pregame, for their
Absolutely.
pre-race show.
Yes.
The staging and all that, or,
Yes.
or game day or something.
Yeah.
I mean, it's really. You've seen a lot, so it's pretty fabulous.
It's amazing to hear about the logistics behind the program, especially in NASCAR. I mean, we travel together. We all stay at pretty much the same hotels, and it's a community. And I see that same thing happening here.
Yeah.
Everyone here just helps one another out.
They're competing like hell against each
They are
other,
competing, but they're if someone needs something, they're going to help them.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. You talked about, Brian, when you got into the petty side of things, and
In 2007.
Yeah.
You can see where that happened. And then, of course, with the economy, what happened in 2008, that really hurt
Yeah.
NASCAR in a lot of ways, because people are not spending money in advertising, right?
Yeah.
But you do see that coming back now. And one of the great things to me, a lot of negative things happened during the pandemic, but a lot of positive things happened as well. And NASCAR being one of the first sport back to
Yeah.
running live sports was
great.
fantastic for it. And I think it's going to continue to grow now. Through that.
it seems like too, where things had gotten a little homogenized, not only on the track, but even the guys behind the wheel. We're starting to get a few more personalities start to develop, which sport
Absolutely.
needs. Yeah,
Definitely
Sport needs.
sport needs that
Yeah.
for sure. Yeah, you had Richard absolutely reigned forever, and you had Darrell Waltrip, of course, and Cale Yarborough and that group, and then you had for so long you had Earnhardt, Earnhardt Senior that carried it.
What did Richard think of Earnhardt?
He liked Earnhardt.
Yeah.
He thought he was a fierce competitor. Yeah. Now he wanted to beat him every single time
Right.
that he's out there, but
But I mean, those are the two big
got along.
names in this sport, are Petty and Earnhardt.
Right. And then you had Jeff Gordon come along, right?
Yeah.
And Jeff had that type personality too.
Right.
Very folks were drawn to Jeff.
Yeah.
Yeah. So put those three in kind of the same category of that.
Absolutely. I'm going to ask you the requisite Richard Petty question. I mean, obviously a living legend, hell of a great guy. Everyone said, but he's your father-in-law. It just, he's Richard.
He is.
He's dad in a way.
He is. He's a father. He's a grandfather, a great grandfather, and he's your average guy, right? And he's a fierce competitor.
He's very involved in a lot of things. He doesn't even get recognition for charity-wise too.
Absolutely. A lot with veterans. Does a lot with veterans, but veterans and kids. And you've probably heard of Victory Junction. Victory Junction in honor of Adam. And so we do a lot with kids, and we do a lot with veterans, and then locally. And when I say locally, I'm not talking about just North Carolina, but where we go to, where he goes to, the racetracks, in the different areas that we go to, helping out even fire departments and so on and so forth. So
guys that are successful post athletic career are always sort of forward thinking. It sounds like he's always been forward thinking. Does he reminisce any about the great career?
It's amazing.
It's like pulling teeth, maybe?
It's amazing to listen to him and Dale Inman talk.
Okay.
Right. I mean, they do race recaps after every race, even today. So they go to the race and they analyze every lap, and you just listen to them. That's
what I mean. He's not telling war stories. He's talking about today.
He's living it. Yeah,
That's
absolutely.
Awesome. That is amazing. Thank you. Go Pirates.
Go Pirates.
It's awesome to have you here. And thanks for coming on the program. Really appreciate it.
Thank you, sir. Much appreciated.
All right. Brian Moffitt with us here from Petty's Garage. We'll have more right after this.
And now, the stunning conclusion of the show. It's the P-Man here on 94.3 The Game.
All right, little boys, this summer, I'll be from the undisclosed bunker for a couple days next week, and then back to the Working Man's Beach for at least a week and a half. Fever rookie Caitlin Clark pushed back against online commenters who have used her name in discussions to denigrate other WNBA players, saying any racist or misogynistic comments are not acceptable. People should not be using my name to push those agendas. It's disappointing and it's not acceptable. Said that Thursday when asked about the comments. Treating every single woman in this league with the same amount of respect, I think, is just a basic human thing that everybody should do. Due to Clark's fame, along with being a white basketball player, of course, this article from ESPN, where else would you expect it to be? Her name has been brought up in culture wars and online debates. By who? Those that look to advance culture wars and online debates and agendas of such things, including why she was left off Team USA Olympic basketball roster and reacting to a number of hard fouls committed against the rookie in her WNBA career. Number one, she is probably thankful she is off the USA basketball team. Because I don't think that would. I have two schools of thought. I think inevitably it would have maybe healed some of these rifts. But I mean, who are the rifts coming from? The rifts aren't coming from Caitlin Clark. And most commentators that I think have good sense, Pilk, are defending Caitlin Clark. Like, I would put us in the camp of the things that these other idiot players are saying are ridiculous. And I'm not looking to advance any agenda. You got to be smarter if you're about business and wanting to get paid, then you got to be smarter. Doesn't mean you have to like Caitlin Clark. There's plenty of people I do business with I don't like, but I realize that they're good for business.
Hey, I mean, it was like Earnhardt, right? when he now she's not nearly as mean as Earnhardt was, but he was good for business for NASCAR. You didn't have to like him, but you needed him
Well,
there.
Tiger was great for business.
He was. Tiger.
And not all the guys, not his contemporary, this love affair with the modern player that they have because they're of the generation that watched Tiger and played golf because of Tiger. And they don't fear Tiger. Tiger's contemporaries, no matter what they say now, did not like him.
Sergio
he did not
couldn't.
like them.
Yeah.
And a lot of them feared him.
Yeah.
But
So-
I mean, you know what? Those guys realize that these idiots in the WNBA do not realize. He was good for business.
And so is
They
she.
are all living in very nice homes. Some of them multiple nice homes with a lot of nice toys because of Eldrick Tiger Woods. And I don't think it's going to be the type of thing where Clark is going to bring that kind of money. But, I mean, these players in that league will get paid better. And I'll just say another thing, too. They let that league is more physical than the NBA is right now.
Most definitely. It's not even close.
They let, I mean, it's not just Caitlin Clark. They let the players knock the snot out of each other in that league.
They do. I want to say something, but I feel like, I don't care. I'm not going to get in trouble with Henry. And I will say women are harder to officiate than men.
Well, you're the ref. You should know this.
Yeah. Sometimes, no matter how athletic they are, sometimes they just dribble the ball down the court and fall. And it's like, did she get hit or did she just eat crap by herself?
I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about there are times where Caitlin Clark has got the bejesus knocked out.
Oh, I know. No, I get that. That are
foul.
obvious. They are obvious, and that's her effect. But I've noticed, sometimes with women, they'll hit the deck hard, and you're still wondering, it's like, wow, did she really get fouled or not? And sometimes I think we let more go with women, regardless than men, because we think they just tripped or they got fouled pretty good and then tripped, and then it made it look like a flop. Now, however, this is not talking about Caitlin Clark. This is just back to they allow more in the WNBA. Because I will say, I think I allowed, and a lot of my counterparts allowed more on the women's side, just because sometimes, like I said, it's like minimal contact and a trip, and it's like, well, a man wouldn't have fallen down there, and it makes it hard. But that's why. Yeah, but that's why some officials,
in a lot of games.
But that's why officials, you either progress in the men's game or the women's game, because it is different to officiate. The men you officiate men, they say, from the hand down. You officiate women from the ground up because they commit more fouls with their hips and different things. So that is the reason that you have men's officials and women's officials. It's not the NBA officials are better than the WNBA officials. It's just whatever assigner you kind of get in with, and it's why you stick to one sex usually when it comes to officiating.
It's the people, and I mean, that article, what I read you from ESPN, it's the people who have the agenda that are pushing this thing, not the people who have come to Caitlin Clark's defense. Now, I think
100%.
she's probably speaking directly about the idiotic comments that Pat McAfee made. But if you know anything about McAfee, idiotic comments and McAfee go together like, milk and cereal.
Yeah.
So
No, I'm with you, but you're right. The people who have the agenda are definitely the ones who are. Because at the end of the day, look, she's a player. Treat her like a player. She has a good game. She has a good game. She's got a bad game. She has a bad game. She doesn't deserve special treatment. Now, she deserves to be.
You can't let them beat the hell out of her.
You can't but that's my thing. This is not that we're asking for special treatment. She should just be officiated like every other player. And if you want people to tune in, you need the star to play in primetime events. That's the only special treatment she deserves is the primetime events, the televised games. And other than that, she needs to be.
She's a needle mover.
She's a needle mover.
And we're not talking a modest needle. We're talking millions versus tens to hundreds of thousands previously.
Yeah, 100%. But when it comes to the on-the-court thing, she should be treated the same as every player. The only way you're going to move that needle is if she is treated the exact same as every other player. And she's not. You cannot
let them knock the hell out of her on every play and expect there to be. I know we haven't talked about Danny Hurley turning down the Lakers this week. I think that's a win for college basketball. I'm frankly shocked. What was it, Pilks? $70 million over 6 years?
Correct.
Yeah, I'd have been gone.
I would have.
I mean, you're out of there in a year and a half, more than likely, 2 at the most. Yeah, you got to live in L.A. and put up with LeBron for those 2 years, but you get the rest of that money.
True. You get to be Frank Reich 2.0. You had to deal with David Tepper for a little while, but now you got all the money. But, hey, this, I think, establishes UConn as an official blue blood. Blue blood jobs coaches do not leave blue blood programs. And Dom and I had this discussion one day when you were out as to whether or not they're blue blood yet. And I said, if he doesn't leave this year, they are. Because that a true mark of a blue blood is the job will never be given away, no matter what. And now he's proven it.
Well, but then how do you explain what happened in Kentucky?
Yeah,
Mark Pope?
That was a
Mark Pope is the guy you hire.
I know.
If your coach dies in a skydiving accident 2 days before the season.
I'm not saying the hires are always great, but Calipari got mutually left. That was not hey, I'm taking a better job.
No, I understand that.
Yeah. I know, that's rough.
In some ways, you could say Cal maybe did take a better job because I think Arkansas stands to be better. I just don't think – I mean, Mark Pope's, I'm sure, fine, but fine's not good enough.
It's not, but –
I mean, they're kind of finding that out in Chapel Hill, and there's some questions going into next season in Durham.
Yeah.
That's why Duke overhauled their roster. A lot of people think guys left Duke. A lot of guys were asked to not come back necessarily in Durham.
Yeah. The only blue blood that you feel good about right now is
tougher.
Kansas. Because Duke's struggling,
they have
Kentucky, Carolina, UCLA's not great.
Yeah,
Indiana stinks.
They have the stability right now, Kansas does. All right, great week at the Big Rock. Thanks to Bethany Bradsher. Thanks to Brian Moffitt. Thanks to everybody at the Big Rock who helped us out this week. Back Monday, Talk of the Town in the mornings and the PJ Show in the afternoons. We're also going to invite you to watch Big Rock TV throughout the rest of the evening and also tomorrow for the results from the Big Rock Blue Marlin Tournament. Have a great and safe weekend, everybody.